Let's look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah!
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, the Detroit Lions are coming out of a bye this week and will return to play this weekend versus the Dallas Cowboys. And quite honestly, the Detroit Lions bye week could not have come at a better time. The Lions are 1-4. They have a very poor offense. They're coming off the worst game of their 2022 NFL season so far, and they are badly injured. They have key injuries on both sides of the football so far this season, including guys like DeAndre Swift, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and DJ Chark on the offense, as well as John Kaminsky Tracy Walker, and many other players on the defensive side of the ball as well. So the bye week really couldn't have come at a much better time for the Detroit Lions. And with the Lions coming back to play this Sunday, we are getting a little bit of injury updates. We're getting a little bit of news, and we're going to get some positive players returning to play this week. So today I wanted to update you, kind of talk about the players that either haven't played yet or haven't played in a while, talk about the guys that are likely to return this Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys, and talk about the reinforcements that are coming for Detroit and whether they're going to be enough to help Detroit start winning. So with that being said, we are unfortunately going to start off with a negative injury report, right? As former second-round pick Levi Onwuzurike is officially out for the remainder of the season. He has not played at all this season, hasn't really, had a whole lot of football activity being done since the beginning of training camp, where he hurt his back, and he did have back surgery a week ago or so, a few days ago at this point, and his season is officially over. There was a little bit of hope that we could maybe see Levi return and see Levi Onwuzurike, start rushing the passer and getting to the quarterback, but unfortunately that is not the case this season. His back surgery will sideline him for the remainder of the 2022 season, and we will not see number 91 until at least early next season. However, despite missing out on former second-round pick Levi Onwuzurike this year, the Detroit Lions are returning multiple starters on both sides of the football and will likely be back to more of a full-strength roster than they were going into the bye. The first player that we're going to talk about is John Kaminsky. John Kaminsky was a waiver wire pickup in the middle of the training camp process. He was a preseason standout and was a huge impact player on the Detroit Lions defensive line early in the season. He had multiple pressures, actually led the team in pressures in both Philadelphia as well as against the Washington Commanders in his first two games. He was leading the team in pressures and had a sack of his own through 2 weeks of the season, and he was really the primary pressure player on the interior of the Detroit Lions defensive line. He is somebody that was disruptive in the pass, somebody that made plays in the run game. He was just a very all-around good, effective, efficient player, and he really, in my opinion, unlocked a lot of what the Detroit Lions were looking to do on defense, because he was kind of a in-between player where sometimes he'd be on the edge, sometimes he'd be on the interior, right? You could line him up against anybody on the offensive line, and you could keep moving him around until you kind of found the spot that worked for him. And against Philadelphia, right, obviously, Philadelphia has one of the best offensive lines, if not the best offensive line in football. So they moved him around a lot. He did get 3 pressures and did get quite a few times where, he got he got Jalen Hurts off his spot and got Jalen Hurts moving out of the pocket, and the rest of the Lions couldn't quite get home. But it was very clear that he was a huge nuisance to the Eagles' offensive line. And then against the Washington Commanders, even though he only came away with 1 sack by himself, he was crucial in the 3 sacks that were given to Aiden Hutchinson, and he was a huge, I would say the most impactful pass rusher the Detroit Lions have had so far this season. Despite not having necessarily the accolades or the statistics to maybe back up that claim, just watching the way he impacts the pocket, watching the way that he takes pressure off of Charles Harris and Aiden Hutchinson, watching the ways that he very much impacts the pocket, collapses it, forces the quarterback to take a farther drop, forces the quarterback to kind of get rid of the ball a little bit earlier and a little bit off schedule from where they want. John Kaminsky has been maybe the most vital free agent or waiver wire pickup this offseason. And when he's in the game, the Lions defense looks much better. They get more pressure. They get more sacks statistically. And when he hasn't been there against, I wouldn't say top tier offensive lines such as Seattle, such as New England, they've really struggled to generate pressure up front and have forced to use more of those blitz zero looks that they've done a lot this season, opening up a lot of things on the back end. So I think John Kaminsky being expected to return in week 7 is very big for the Detroit Lions. Right, you're going to get a big pass rusher back. You're going to get a rotational piece back. I really think that he is going to help really boost up the pass rush that the Lions are going to have. And if the Lions want to come out and upset the Dallas Cowboys, they are going to need a really, really good pass rush. And I think John Kaminsky is really going to help with that. Now, second-round pick Josh Paschal is also projected to return in the coming weeks, either in week 7 or latest during week 8. He has been practicing with the team throughout the bye and I believe is expected to make his first career game and potentially his first career start with the Detroit Lions this Sunday versus the Dallas Cowboys. And despite being a second-round pick, Josh Paschal at many times throughout the offseason last year was talked about as a potential first-round pick and was even talked about and rumored to go as high as the top 20 in the 2022 NFL Draft. Now, injury concerns and some other things like that were a big reason why Josh Paschal fell to the second round. It had more to do with off-the-field things and injury concerns out of his control than it had to do with Josh Paschal as a player. Josh Paschal is coming back healthy. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully he doesn't follow a similar trajectory to Levi Onwuzurike. But when he's on the field, Josh Paschal was a disruptive force at Kentucky, having 15 tackles for loss and 5 sacks in his senior year with the Kentucky Wildcats in the SEC. Josh Paschal was a leader. Josh Paschal was a pass rusher. He was a run stopper. He was explosive and extremely, extremely disruptive on the defensive line for Kentucky. And I think he can bring that to the Detroit Lions, right? I think he is very much like a John Kaminsky where you can have him on the edge or you can have him, over a guard or even over a center if you really want him to, and he can rush the passer from any single situation. And I think that versatility is kind of an underrated thing the Lions have going on because Hutchinson can move around the defensive line, but Austin Bryant really can't. Julian Okwara can move from linebacker to edge rusher, but he's not really, move him around the defensive line kind of player. Same thing with Charles Harris, right? You're not really going to move him inside too often. But I think the Lions having some of those versatile players, right, kind of moving their players and shuffling their defensive line along the defensive, or kind of shuffling their defensive line alongside the offensive line to kind of find the best possible matchups, I think is going to help the Lions find those matchups, take advantage, and hopefully start getting some more pressure with just 4-man fronts and start getting to the quarterback without having to commit 5, 6, 7 players to the quarterback, leaving our secondary very much exposed. Now, one player that is coming back that I think is going to help the secondary a ton is Jerry Jacobs. Jerry Jacobs was an undrafted free agent from a season ago that ended up making the team as a UDFA and ended up making 9 starts, with his first being against the Los Angeles Rams, and he's starting every single game until his unfortunate ACL tear versus the Denver Broncos in week 14 of last season. Now, Jerry Jacobs, in his 9 career starts in 9 career games, had 7 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, as well as a fumble recovery, and allowed just 59% completion and just over 200 passing yards completed on him in 40 targets through 9 games. He is an extremely scrappy cornerback. He is somebody that fights for every single ball. He is, not the biggest, he's not the fastest, he's not the longest or the strongest or doesn't have the greatest deep speed, but he is just somebody that continuously sticks with wide receivers. I mean, against the Los Angeles Rams, in his first start as an undrafted free agent, he stuck right there with Cooper Kupp and right there with Robert Woods and was very, very good. He did give up a touchdown in that game, and that was the only touchdown he allowed through any of his 9 starts as a rookie UDFA free agent. But he got better after week 1, and he matched up against guys like Devontae Adams. He matched up against guys like Justin Jefferson. He matched up versus Courtland Sutton. He matched up versus some really, really good, strong wide receivers last year that had great seasons. And Jerry Jacobs stepped up to the plate, and I wouldn't say shut down all of them because, they did still have some good games. Not necessarily always on Jerry Jacobs, right? I wouldn't say he's necessarily a lockdown cornerback in the same realm of maybe a Sauce Gardner or Darius Slay at this season. But I would say Jerry Jacobs is an extremely scrappy cornerback. He is somebody that just kind of sticks with his wide receiver, doesn't allow a lot of separation, always gets his hand on the football, is getting constant pass deflections in almost every single game, is not afraid to step up and tackle, is not afraid to hit the football, he's not afraid to punch the football out, and I think that is the exact cornerback the Detroit Lions need right now. Because Jeff Okudah, despite missing, or I'd say despite having 2 down games from New England and against Seattle, he did start the season very well as that scrappy cornerback that was getting pass deflections. And I do think that Okudah, after hopefully a week of the bye to maybe calm down a little bit and get a little bit, of momentum back under his feet, I do think he can come back out and play more like the cornerback in the first 4 weeks opposed to the cornerback from the last 2, or the cornerback from the first 3 weeks opposed to the one in the last 2. And I think a combination of Jeff Okudah at his best, as well as Jerry Jacobs returning to form how he was a season ago, if not better, would be a really good cornerback duo. And then Mike Hughes in the slot, or even Chase Lucas in the slot, another guy that's just kind of scrappy, is really good at tackling, is just a good slot cornerback. I think that secondary, despite being young and not having a lot of names or star recognition, I think that secondary could be really, really good. And I think if you're going to go with Aaron Glenn's system of a lot of man coverage with some blitzes and, kind of relying on your secondary to win their individual battles, I don't think the Lions have a player more well-equipped to win that role than Jerry Jacobs on the defensive back side of the football. So Jerry Jacobs, I think, is going to return and have a huge play. I think he should start, right? The Lions have a lot of injury concerns at their cornerback room right now. Amani may start at the boundary cornerback position, but if Jerry Jacobs is ready to play, I would not be surprised if he is the one starting alongside Jeff Okudah, because he is the exact cornerback that fits this system. He's good in man coverage. He's sticky, he's scrappy, he gets his hand on the football, he gets pass deflections, he knocks the football up in the air, he gives opportunities to his other defensive backs to come up with deflections and interceptions. He is the guy you want to cover, or he's the guy you want in coverage if you're going to call those zero blitzes. And for me, if the Lions are going to continue to do that, right, whether John Kaminsky and Josh Pascal take another week to come back, or the pass rush just simply doesn't get significantly better with those two coming back, and you need to continue to rely on those blitz packages, I do think that Jerry Jacobs should have a prominent role, because he is a very, very good cornerback, and he's the perfect cornerback for the Lions system. So, with that being said, those are the big injury updates. Those are the guys that haven't played yet this season, or were, having surgeries, like in the case of John Kaminsky, hasn't played since week 2. Those are the guys that we have been looking at. Those are the guys that we are expecting to return in week 7. Other guys include, of course, DeAndre Swift. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be back 100% healthy. DJ Chark, hopefully. The offensive line should hopefully be back to full strength, minus, of course, Halapaloe Vaitai, who I do not believe has had any news broken on him. And then we do have a couple more players, including Romeo Okwara and Jameson Williams, who it has come out that they are on a good track to return relatively soon, but they may need an extra week or two before they are ready to return. So with all that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below, what player are you most excited for the Lions to get back? What player do you think will have the biggest impact on the defensive side of the football? Or just in general, what player coming back from injury next week do you think will have the biggest impact on the Detroit Lions? I'd be very curious to what you guys think. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!